What is going on, Jet fans? Matt O'Leary back with another video recapping OTAs and a chippy OTA practice at that. We'll have some Aaron Glenn quotes from you as well, but we'll start with what we saw at practice today. According to reports, it was an intense OTA today. It was getting chippy at the end, and Aaron Glenn had to step in. He stopped practice for a minute to calm everyone down, and this is kind of what happens at this time of year. It's hot. In training camp, you get this too. You're competing against the same guys every day. It gets chippy. It gets annoying. Look, I don't want anyone to get hurt, and you have to be mindful of these things, but the intensity is there. You want there to be some sort of intensity. You don't want it to just be going through the motions. We're doing half speed today because it's June 3rd or whatever date it is today. Like, I understand why it gets chippy, and that's okay, but it's on the coach to get it to calm down. There were a lot of positives today, and we're going to focus on a lot of the positives, but there is something that I wanted to talk about with Justin Fields that I think he needs to work on. And there were a few times during practice where he was delivering the ball late. He was late to the throw, and that's obviously based on the reports that were there. That's been an issue for him through his 4 years in the NFL. And if Justin Fields is to take that next step in his career and go from, a guy with, crazy upside, good legs, he needs to get his timing down. Too many times it's either holding onto the ball too long or a little bit too late. And sure, like, he has his legs to extend plays, and that's a plus from his game. That his legs is a major plus to his game, and a reason why, so many people are holding out hope for him to finally take another step. But if we're being honest, something that he needs to improve at, and I'm not saying that he can't do it, it's just something that you'd like to see improve over the course of the summer before the season starts. He needs to get the timing down, and he needs to get the ball out a little bit quicker. All right, two rookies on the defensive side of the ball. Malachi Moore and AZ Thomas both stood out. Moore had a pick. Thomas with some sticky coverage. I really want to see a point this year when both of those guys are starting. For Malachi Moore, his opportunity might come sooner because I feel like the safety room is a lot more thin than the cornerback room. There's not a definitive starter, I guess, in place at strong safety. You have a free safety in Andre Cisco, but outside of that, it's kind of up in the air. With AZ Thomas, he has Brandon Stevens in front of him, and that's obviously someone they paid a lot of money to, so he's going to get the nod early on, but Thomas is going to give him a run for his money, and I'm really impressed with the things that we've seen from those guys. I'm not saying they're going to be all pros on day one, but I just think both guys have shown and flashed their talent pretty early on through the offseason and through the training camp or mini camp and OTA portion of the offseason. And hopefully that, continues when the pads do come on. I wish there was video of it. It hasn't been released yet. If there is video of this out there, Garrett Wilson mossed Michael Carter II. Garrett, of course, has been standing out, which is expected, but made an unbelievable play, kind of pulled it off the head of Michael Carter to reel in a Justin Fields pass. And we know, you could just picture it. We've seen Garrett Wilson be very acrobatic, like in the air, going up and making plays on the ball. We know how he is with the ball in his hands. He's a very exciting player, and I'm really ready to watch him this year. I think he takes his game to another level. Let's get into some quotes. Here's Aaron Glenn on just the competition level at OTAs so far.
First thing comes to mind is this is the last week of OTAs, and I actually said something to the players about this, man. Just how quick this thing goes by, and the sense of urgency of getting the discipline details and competes at a level that we want to be. And the players totally understand that. So our sense of urgency of trying to make sure that we're above board in all three of those deals, the players get it. So each day we go out, man, we go out with a purpose. We don't waste the day. And the guys are on point. They're on point. So I appreciate that as a coach. I know the assistant coaches appreciate it, but we still have a ways to go, and we understand that. But we're working our asses off to get to where we need to be, and I'm appreciative of that.
It's very important for any coach, but especially a first-year coach with a new team, to implement his standard right away. And call out if the standard's not there. We heard either at the end of last week. Yeah, I think it was at the end of last week. Aaron Glenn didn't like how one of the practices went, and he ripped into him. And, he said this isn't good enough. And obviously today was much more appreciative of the effort, and that's a good thing. You set the standard. Okay, this is the level we have to compete at every day, and go out there and do it. Looking at a rookie on the offensive side of the ball, Mason Taylor, Aaron Glenn had some words calling out his blocking, actually.
I think he's been doing an outstanding job in that aspect. And it's not just the pass catching, because that's what you guys see, and that's what you guys really think it's an moment. But it's the blocking, to me, is what really gets me going. Now, because I know what he can do in the passing game. But for him to come out and do the things he's doing in the run game, even though you can't do a lot of running because it's not a physical part of the season, but him understand exactly what he's supposed to do and the position, the body language, the leverage, all those things. I really love that when it comes to the run game.
I like that a lot because everyone knows Mason Taylor can catch the football, but something that was looked at as a negative or something that he needed to work on at the next level was his blocking ability. So the coach calling that out and showing that he's been impressed by it is a really good sign for Mason Taylor, who I think will be a very big part of the New York Jets offense this year. One of the quotes from earlier this week that came out on Aaron Glenn, no block, no rock. It was one of his mottos and phrases that the Jets are rocking with, and essentially meaning if wide receivers or tight ends or whoever aren't going to block, they're not going to get opportunities to catch the ball. And I love that. He wants his guys to be extremely well-rounded players, and I think it's something that guys are going to have to work at and get better at. And the Jets are going to run the football a lot. And I know we look at the offensive line. The offensive line is so important in the run scheme, but it's more than just the line. It's the tight ends. It's the wide receivers. If they're missing their assignments, the offensive line could have everything right. But if you're not getting the proper blocking from tight ends and receivers, well, then your run scheme is screwed. Speaking of no block, no rock, interesting quote from Aaron Glenn on Jeremy Rucker saying, I think there's a lot of meat on the bone with that player, and was talking about how he thinks he's improved. And that's exciting. I'm at the point with Jeremy Rucker where I want to see it. And we haven't, unfortunately, because the OTAs aren't open to the public, we haven't seen it yet. And there were times throughout the first couple of years of his career where I would agree 100% with this quote, that there is a lot more meat on the bone. And I thought the Jets were initially underutilizing him. Last year was a really poor season for Jeremy Rucker, unfortunately. Had a few drop issues. I don't think his blocking was at the level that it was his first 2 years in the league. I'm hoping that he gets back to that elite level blocking that we saw early on and improves and could just be a solid number 2 tight end, man. That's it. And you need role players like that on your roster. And if he can step up to just fill that role and do it well, that's awesome. You also had Josh Reynolds share his thoughts on Justin Fields, calling his pass, he throws a good ball was the exact wording.
Obviously it's early, but just your early thoughts on Justin Fields and just catch a pass with him.
He can throw it, man. He's got a beautiful ball. He's a smart quarterback. He's been picking up this offense pretty fast, and it's not easy. So, I'm excited to see how he kind of just continues to develop as the plays get a little easier, a little more recognition for it, and he's gonna be rolling.
Reynolds is going to have to get used to that. I think I would be surprised if Josh Reynolds is not the number 2 wide receiver for the Jets, at least to start things off. I think, he knows the offense inside and out, had a lot of success in Detroit with Tanner Engstrand and when Aaron Glenn was there. I know that, Lazard's still kicking around and they like Arian Smith and, whoever else is on this team. I think Reynolds is going to be the number 2 receiver, probably like the 4th or 5th pass catcher in the offense behind, Garrett and Brees and Mason Taylor. But I do think we see a decent amount of Josh Reynolds this year, assuming he's healthy, because that was a big issue for him last year, unfortunately. So that'll do it for me in this video recapping OTAs. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm Matt O'Leary. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you next time.